Report to the company building immediately to sell your scrap metal and other goods.
I am scared. Something happened today that chilled me to my bones. I was back in the ship while the others were out on march. They'd taken their time today trying to run back and forth as the company sent us a pretty high quota. The facility wasn't too bad. Some turrets, a few high grenadiers, a bunker spider which was very fast and made Marek scream. It was kind of funny, although also very scary. He and River managed to take it out with the shovel though, and they gave an emergency shovel whack to Cassie when one of those things landed on her head and tried to suffocate her. She was pissed about dropping her walkie off the side in shock more than anything. We had a spare, but she liked that one because she put a sticker of a cartoon dog on it. Anyway, after all that, it was past 7. I never like it on march when it's too dark because the dogs come out and run around, but they weren't tonight. I wasn't sure why, till I heard the booming of gigantic footsteps. I hid under the terminal. The door was still open so I could see outside when the trees shook and leaves got pulled aside as the thick, trunky legs slammed into the grass just beyond the walkway. It stood there, right outside. I felt my vision tremble and almost draw into it. I had to close my eyes and squeeze the walkie to whisper not to come back yet, to watch out around the ship. It must have seen something, as it started moving again, and I could breathe right after it left the side of the door. I radioed again to make sure they heard me, but nobody responded. I stood up and checked the cameras. They were all still on their way, thankfully keeping low behind the trees. I could hear it thumping around the landscape still. Marek came back first and flattened himself against the bunks. Then Cassie, looking frazzled. I waited, staring at the door, for River. Another second. Another. Each felt interminable. Just as I turned to check the camera, I heard this sickening crunch echo from outside, whipping my attention back towards the door. We all listened in horror. Marek crept closer. Cassie ran to the terminal. For a second I froze, but in a blur of rage and panic I ran to the bay doors and whipped a shovel from next to the equipment locker, ready to beat to death this thing that might be trying to eat River if it hadn't already. Just as I reached the railing and was about to jump into the tree, something pulled me in from behind. I yelped and felt myself hauled into the air briefly and then carried back into the ship. Marek leapt behind me and closed the doors, and Cassie brought us back into orbit. I looked around as everything lurched towards the door, then saw myself in the grip of that big, wonderful hyena. They looked haggard, a little shaken, but we all had growing relief as we came to terms with having made it safe back to space. I felt silly. I don't know what I would have done against a forest keeper except die, especially if River had already been chomped to death by it. I sat on my bunk and took my mask off, letting the adrenaline die down a little. I barely noticed anyone else till the bunk shifted and felt River next to me. I gulped and looked up at them. "Thanks for that," they said, way too generously for what would have been my useless suicide. Would have lost us Quota too. Then they put an arm around me and squeezed me in. Even through the suit I could feel their heat against mine, and I kind of wondered if together we might melt the rubbery cloth and meld them together somehow. I bet it's really nice in there. Apart from that, today was alright. We've been hitting Quota consistently and work pretty well as a team. Marek has all kinds of weird things he knows about architecture and land, and had some theories as to why the pumpkins were so big on all the planets we visit. He seems to think it's a side effect of the things they did in the factories, because there are so many pipes and dams that they must have worked with wastewater a lot and it probably got into the local ecosystem. I think it might just be space pumpkins, because space is so much bigger it makes sense that the things you get there are bigger too. I mean, you have forest keepers wandering around, do you think the plants are going to be normal? I like him though, we get on okay. We bought a shower, and some fancy lights, which, it's not exactly private, so you have to just kind of do cruise honor and not look when someone says they're going into the shower. I think Cassie peeks a look at Marek, and I can't blame her, but I do my best, to be honest. River barely fits. Not that I've seen. You can tell just from hearing bumps and squeaks against the glass and grunts and muttering. All the noises. Yeah, some noises. Oh, we have new suits now. I can get purple. I might do that. I've been told purple looks better on me than orange because of my green eyes. Though to be fair, I think anyone looks good in purple. Marek and Cassie would. So maybe I'll stick with orange, just for, you know, to stand out. I bet River would look good in green, though.